Today's program is part of The Pulse, Moments That Matter, a series of frank conversations on culturally relevant topics with musicians, comedians, and other entertainment industry professionals, and is a joint initiative of Moment Live and Neranenah. Now for today's guest. Joe Buchanan, Texas-born and river-raised, makes country music steeped in Torah and Jewish spirit. Blending classic Texas sound with deep faith, his music tells stories of belonging, struggle, and celebration. He's toured across the U.S., leads residencies for Jewish communities, and hosts a thriving online community known as the Small Town Tribe. Joe Buchanan's latest album is Heaven and Earth. Joe Alterman, an Atlanta-born jazz pianist, has released 8 critically acclaimed albums and has performed at venues including the Kennedy Center, Lincoln Center, Birdland, and the Blue Note. Beyond the piano, Joe is the executive director of Neranenah, a concert and culture series celebrating Jewish contributions to music and the arts. He is also the host of The Upside of Jazz on WABE, Atlanta's NPR station, where he explores jazz as a source of joy, history, humor, memory, spirituality, and connection. Please welcome the two Joes, Joe Buchanan and Joe Alterman.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
It's great to be together. Thank you for doing this.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's so funny because I have known of you and I've known you for a long time without knowing you. We haven't been in the same space. So when we popped in for the pre-meeting, before this thing, I remember feeling like, oh, yeah, hey, what's up, man? Like we went to school together
I feel
or
that
something.
too, yeah. We know each other from somewhere.
We go all the way back to the mountain. It's just been a while.
Yes. Man. Well, we're going to have some fun today. Thanks so much for taking some time to chat with us. And, I thought, just because it's more of a conversation, I thought I'd kind of give you just a little context to me as we to my story a little bit to see how it, becomes, just becomes context to the conversation. That's all. But,
Right on.
growing up, I grew up Jewish. I'm 4th generation Jewish Atlantan, actually, on both sides of my family. And, growing up, I went to Jewish day school, and my family would go to synagogue a lot. And I was always, told that Judaism was the place where you could, question and debate and, wrestle with ideas and ultimately find your own way. But, growing up, I start for a long time, I didn't really experience it that way. I experienced it more like, less of find your own questions and here are the answers. So jazz and the piano, jazz and the piano kind of for me became the place where I found what I thought I was supposed to find in Judaism, the freedom to ask questions, to search, to explore, and to discover your own voice. And over the years, I've come to realize that these things were all kind of deeply Jewish all along, even though I didn't really recognize that at first. But, you've talked about hearing something in Hebrew prayer or Jewish music that felt familiar from the country music you always loved. So I guess I was just curious, before you found Judaism, did country music give you something spiritually that you weren't finding in religion? And when you found Judaism, did it feel like you were discovering something new or recognizing something you had already known through music? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Before Judaism happened, I was a very struggling person from a religious standpoint. I grew up with a very simple understanding of God from my grandparents, but my friends, my parents didn't want religion in the house. When my mom married my dad, I moved in with them. There was no religion allowed in the house. So all my friends went to different churches, and I stayed the night on Saturday night, which meant you better bring a change of clothes because you're going to church in the morning. So I went to all these places asking 1,000,005 questions and not getting any answers, a lot of pushback, and being told that my faith wasn't strong enough. That's why I was having questions or why I doubted and stuff. Country music was always such a comfort for me, both as an individual, as it related to the relationship with the world and also with God. There's a lot of, we had a ranch. It sounds so country stereotypical here. We had a ranch in South Texas for a long time, and on that ranch was a Wurlitzer jukebox that had it was nothing but George Jones and George, all the Georges, George Strait, Dolly Parton, Loretta Lynn, and for some reason Eye the Tiger from Survivor was up there too. But all that country music was those were the first real storytellers I ever heard. And they were stories about people and their struggles and belonging and all of that. And it was such a comfort to me as a young person. And it always made sense as something that was also felt like sacred music to me.
Yeah. So I understand, like, were you, I know you weren't a big religious person when you were younger, but were you a spiritual person? Have you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to
Yeah.
cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that's it. That's it. That's the question.
I believed so strongly in God. My grandfather was like, I'll never forget this. My grandfather had such a cartoon Texas voice too. It was a beautiful voice. He called me over. He goes, Joey, this is how my grandfather talked. Look outside. He said, you can see God in the world and the way people work. And I said, what does God want from me? And he goes, well, I don't know. Live a good life. He said, that's all God can ask of you. My grandmother believed very differently about God. She was like, God knows you didn't go to bed on time, didn't eat your vegetables, so like God was keeping track of everything. So I believed in God, and I loved praying. I loved it. I would say my prayers every morning. They were just very general thankfulness. Thank you, God, for another day. Thank you, God, for this. Like all this, a very general prayer. I didn't have any structure to it. There was no Bible with my grandparents. There was no book that said do this, do that. So when I had the opportunity to start looking for that, I was all in. But the stuff I was finding, it didn't make any sense to me, and I couldn't get any answers to it. I pushed back really hard against the things that I was hearing about. It just, I was like, well, maybe this isn't for me. I checked out after a while. I was like, look, 50 million Elvis fans can't be wrong. Like if 50 million people tell you Elvis is in Honduras, Elvis is in Honduras, or there's just something wrong with you, So like everywhere I went, I got the same narrative, which to me ran counter to everything that I learned from my grandfather. It didn't make sense. And so I figured, look, God and I are going to settle up at some point, and that's just how it is. So I kind of moved away from structured religion and just had a spirituality about me.
Wow. So yeah. So I mean, where I found where music for me growing up was really where I found my spirituality and really explored that. Music for you is more of your comfort place where you could feel, like always yourself. Is that kind of,
100%. I mean, anytime anything was going on in my life, I was a lonely kid. I spent most of my time on my own, and music was always the place I could go to feel welcomed. It was always the place I could go to feel grounded and feel present. It was always that. I didn't grow up Jewish. I didn't have anyone in my family who was Jewish. I never heard of the Jewish people growing up. This is a true story. And I lived in Houston, Texas, by the way. We have the largest conservative synagogue in the country. I never met anyone who was Jewish. And I didn't know my wife was Jewish for 13 years of our marriage. Like, I know that sounds completely wild. It's so true. And when she told me, and the way she told me, it all got revealed, eventually music and Judaism just worked so perfectly together for me. And I didn't know Jewish music was even a thing. I just started writing stuff to help comfort me and to help me learn more and to study more. And music's always carried a holiness and a comfort. I think it's a big part of, people ask, like, people ask me now, like, what do you want from me? Someone who's not Jewish saying, like, what do you expect of the world? And I always tell them, like, we just want you to live a good life. Just live your life. Do good for you. Take care of those around you. Do good things with the time that you've got. That's it. And music is a constant reminder of that for me.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we're going to get to the story for sure, but I'm just curious. You had this
little teasers.
There's so much here. There's this. But with the so you had this jukebox. And I understand the kind of music that was playing.
Yeah.
But was there any? I understand you liked that music, but was there any? Like my dad played a lot of Elvis for me when I was a kid. But the first time I found something that I really loved was a totally different kind of experience. What was the first thing that really resonated with you, felt personal to you, and you really loved? Musically.
Yeah. Musically, the song that hits me as like the first thing that I couldn't stop listening to was El Paso by Marty Robbins.
Oh, wow.
The out in the West Texas town of El Paso, I fell in love with a Mexican girl, and the story of like him and Felina, and then this other person who likes Felina, and then they get into a gunfight, and he has to leave town, and the people from town are seeking vengeance and track him down. I mean, to me, it was my first epic. It was, everybody's watching the Odyssey right now, right? That was the Odyssey for me as a kid, was El Paso by Marty Robbins. The music fit the story, like the kavanah was in the music itself. Like you could, even if you didn't have the words, you could almost picture what this song was about. And I started listening to music differently at that point, listening to Kenny Rogers tell incredible stories, beautiful human stories, which is at the core of what country music is. It's about people.
Yeah. Well, I guess that kind of leads to a question I was going to get to later, but you kind of brought it up. So I think why don't we dive into this? I think, the question is really, what is country music? I mean, I know that's a difficult question, just like what is Jewish music's a difficult question, but I understand how Marty Robbins is country music, and I know a lot of people when they talk about country music, they talk about the story.
Sure.
But I also know I hear a lot of country music that just sounds like pop music with a southern accent, or it's a story about a guy living in a mansion in Hawaii, and I don't know what makes it country.
Yeah, well, listen, that is a debate we could have all day long. I will give you my thoughts on country music.
Sure, yeah.
As someone who grew up with my grandmother, my grandfather wasn't into country music. He loved like Don Ho and Lawrence Welk and all that stuff, but my grandmother was super into very, like, at that time, like the original Hank Williams, like some old school country. And she loved the 80s country. And then I grew up, listening to a lot of 80s and 90s country. So seeing country music change over the years, it started, I think people make a lot of mistakes in thinking that, like, oh, it's religious music, or that country music is inherently Christian. There's nothing Christian about country music. Country music is about people. And people bring their stories to country music. So, like, it started with black string bands and the kind of real working class stuff and struggles and things that normally wouldn't be okay to talk about on popular radio. Songs about drunks who had one too many and their wife left them and now they're just miserable. Or songs from some of these amazing artists about, like, hey, I can smell her on your collar, and like these really, like, somebody done somebody wrong, and at the same time then you had these beautiful uplifting songs, these beautiful stories. So it's just about people and their stories, and people come in all shapes, sizes, and colors, and that's really what country music is. It is a beginning and a middle and an end. There's a beginning and a middle and an end to most country songs. It's a narrative usually throughout. So whether that's modern day snap tracks and clap tracks and that kind of thing, which I'm not a massive fan of that style of country, but I recognize we got that, it's in there. So, but it's also like rock music, right? Like, how many different kinds of rock are there? There's a ton. There's so many. It's the same thing with country.
It's fascinating. I mean, I've had this exploration of years. What is Jewish music? And what I love about the conversations is hopefully, it's a very Jewish thing, because my goal is you leave with more questions than answers. It's like the whole conversation. Like this, I have tons of questions, but I won't ask them all because it would take up the whole time. But but you said when you were talking about El Paso, you used the word kavanah, which I thought was pretty interesting, because it seems like maybe when you found Judaism, it helped put this puzzle together. Like, you didn't know the word kavanah, I'm sure, before, and it feels like it seems to me like it put everything, it gave words to things you might not have had words for before.
Yeah, it's such a word too that we talk about as a band, and from a songwriting standpoint, as we get into when we're putting a melody together, or there's a melody line that's coming together for a song, and we go, does this fit the heart of the story that we're trying to tell? And if in any way at any point the answer is no, it's out.
Wow.
So whether especially if it's a prayer melody, which I don't write a ton, even though I've written quite a few now, I don't usually sit down to go, I'm going to write a prayer melody. It's only for, like, if I happen to really feel like I need one, or I'm not connecting with what I can find. That way I focus the intention, like, I'm writing this because it felt important to write, not so that I could fit something within a music structure and call it prayer. You know what I mean? It has to it has to have super intention and be important. And the music, the kavanah in the music itself should match what's being said.
That's beautiful, man.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, man. But you hinted at the interesting way your wife shared the news of her being Jewish with you. So I
Yeah.
was hoping, you could share a bit about that and the
Yeah.
Holocaust Museum story, why you were at the Holocaust Museum, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, brother, I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version of this as best I can. We're in Washington D.C. and my wife was like, "Let's go to the Holocaust Museum," and I was like, "That's a heavy trip. Sure, why not?" We were at the Spy Museum beforehand, so originally the Holocaust, which is a great museum, by the way. They wouldn't let me lower myself into a room. They're like, "This is not Mission Impossible. You can't do that." So I was like, the Holocaust Museum wasn't on the trip, but we went. And, I've never had a moment where I felt hollow before until you walk through that room full of shoes. And it completely, you disassociate. It takes you right out of your body. You're like trying to remember just how to breathe. It shook us both, the whole experience. And we're standing on the sidewalk afterwards, just really holding hands and holding on to each other. And she looks at me and she says, "I want to get in touch with my people's faith." And I said, "What? Who? What? Who are your people?" And she's like, "I'm Jewish." And I said, "Wait, when did you get Jewish?" And she's like, "I was born Jewish." And I said, "You can't." I start mansplaining, right? "You can't just be born Jewish." She's like, "Joe, it's how it works." I'm like, "You don't know how it works." And she goes, "You don't know how it works." I said, "That's true." She goes, "Our son is Jewish." And I said, "Does he know that?" And she's like, "I don't think he does. It's a true story." And she goes, I have a Star of David necklace in my jewelry box. I said, "Yeah, but you never wear it. I thought it belonged to your mom." And she's like, "So my mom's Jewish?" I said, "Yeah. I just didn't know that made you Jewish." So my wife grew up she was part of a military family, and her family tree, like my own, hit by lightning many times. But as she was growing up, there was no practice, there was no adherence to anything. There was no shul, no synagogue, no summer camp, no Hebrew school, no anything like that. She never celebrated becoming bat mitzvah. Her mom never celebrated becoming bat mitzvah. Like if you had asked, "What do you do on Friday night?" she would have been like, I don't know, take a walk. Like there was no awareness of what it meant. So I said, let's find somebody. And she was kind of hesitant at first, but we eventually went to this little shul in Houston, Texas, small place. And we walked in, and Rabbi Stuart Federow, who's just big as day, his character is even taller. He goes, "Hi, Stuart the Rabbi." It's exactly how he talks. He approves that impression, by the way. And I said, "My name is Joe. This is April, and this is Nathan. They're Jewish. I'm not. Nathan just found out he's Jewish, and none of us have any idea what it means." And he goes, "Do you want me just to explain everything to you?" And I said, "Yes, boss, that'd be great." And he goes, "All right." Here's what he said to me. I'll never forget this. He looked right at me and he said, "There is one God and there is nothing wrong with you." And it was 30 years of therapy all at the same time. He said, "You do good because it puts good in the world. It's not for a reward later. It's not for some fear of punishment or trying to get into some place. The good that you see in the world, that's the reward for doing good. So put more good in." He said, "You're loved by your Creator exactly as you are. You're part of creation." He said, "You don't have to be Jewish or anything else to be loved by God. And there's no one between you and God. You're okay. You're loved just like this." He said, "And we don't know what happens next. We really don't." He said, "There's a lot of fan fiction about it. We don't know what's next. But we know what happens now. This life is the gift, and you have to take care of it." And I was shocked. And I told him, I said, "Is that it?" He goes, "No, there's a lot more than that, And I was like, "Well, I'm in." This was what I had been looking for and believed in since I was very, very young, like 5, 6 years old. And I dove in as fast as I could. You can't really rush that process, but I got here as quick as I could and started writing this music to help me understand more about what I was going through. So, yeah, my wife and son went through the classes too, even though they didn't have to. And it changed everything, put me back in my life. Judaism and the Jewish people helped me get back in my life. I didn't realize I was outside of my life.
It kind of gave you permission to be you in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Man, I can't tell you the amount of like weirdly religious trauma that I was holding on to. It was like this weight just flew off my shoulders. And really all of a sudden the world wasn't full of strangers anymore. It was just full of people that I happen to be in a lifetime with. And I want to meet as many people in this lifetime as I can. This is what I got, and I want to do whatever kind of good I can do. And I want to share space with people.
That's beautiful. Wow. Yeah, I know when you were converting, I know or I read that your son got bar mitzvah during that process. What, what was that
Yeah.
like? Were y'all studying together? Were you what kind of
Yes.
yeah?
Very much
Really?
so. So he was doing
Wow.
he was going through those, those intro to Judaism conversion classes with me, and he was also being tutored for his upcoming bar mitzvah. And by the
Wow.
time he found out he was Jewish when he was like 12, like almost 12 years old. And by the time he was 13, he led Friday and Saturday services, the whole thing. He chanted every Torah portion. And the sweetest thing in the world happened during the celebration of his bar mitzvah. His grandmother, my wife's mom, got called to the Torah. It was her first time ever being called to the Torah. And afterwards, the rabbi covered it up, and he said, Sharon, I know we're here celebrating Nathan's becoming bar mitzvah, but we also just celebrated your bat mitzvah. And man, not a dry eye in the place. It was
Wow.
it was such a beautiful experience. Yeah, it was great.
That's incredible, man. Really, man. I know so you weren't writing music for a while leading up to this. Is that correct? You kind of stopped.
I was working in the oil and gas industry here in Texas,
Wow.
which also sounds so stereotypical.
Ah.
But I was writing songs just for myself. I never thought I would be doing this. I never had any intention of doing it professionally. It was a hobby. I loved music growing up. I remember asking my dad one time, I said, I want to learn how to play guitar. And he bought me a like this real beat up electric guitar at a garage sale. And he goes, all right, go learn. And that was it, And so I've always enjoyed it. It's been a meditative practice for me, but it all changed. It all changed when Judaism came into our lives. It got very different.
Man. Well, with I guess I'm so interested. I know that these terms were all kind of country, Jew, whatever. It's all invented by the people marketing the music. But like,
Sure.
how do you define what you do? Is it like a lot of the people I've gotten to know in like the jazz world, they understand why they're put in this genre, but it's so
Sure.
personal to them. So like they would say,
Yeah.
I play Joe music, for example. Do you say
Right.
you play country music, or how do you characterize what you do?
I
Is it Joe
yeah.
music?
I wonder. I 100% say that it's country music, and if you want to call it
Okay.
Jewish country, you certainly can because it's through a Jewish lens, and sometimes it's in Hebrew, sometimes it's in English about Jewish stuff. But if you take away the words, it's just country music, and I think that also pushes a larger conversation, right, about like what's allowed in there and what's okay in there, and I think also by doing that, it has really helped open that door in a lot of ways I didn't expect. Like we're now part of the Texas Country Music Association. It's wild to have a group like the Texas Country Music Association share where I'm going to be for Shabbat. And they're like, hey, y'all go see Joe. He's a TCMA member. Go check. And I'm like, that's so cool that y'all are doing that.
That's
And,
amazing.
Yeah, it's really wild. The country music community, the greater music community is very welcoming. And those people who aren't, I don't want to sit at that table anyway. So it's
Right.
you find a lot of good people doing this. So yeah, I define it very much as country music. You can certainly call it Jewish country if you want to. Just don't call it Jewgrass, please. we gotta retire that word.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Somebody asked me. They said, "Do you call it Juntry?" I'm like, no. Please
What?
don't. No, it's not. It's not Juntry. It's nothing like that. It's just country
No.
or it's Jewish country.
Man. Well, do you ever I'm just curious, how do non-Jewish country fans,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't characterize all of them, but how do they,
Sure.
for the most part, respond to your music? Do you know, or?
really, really positively. We've had
that's
a
great.
tremendously positive response to it because a lot of the music is in English and about things that unless you're Jewish, for a lot of these tunes, you wouldn't really dial into some of that stuff. Like we have a song called My Beloved, I'm my beloved's, my beloved is mine, which of course we know what that's from. And Jewish folks who hear that are like, oh, that's awesome. We have our own, now our own country song about this. But a lot of it is very spiritual. It talks about God. It talks about our time in this world. It's very uplifting, very positive stuff. And so it draws attention from there. But of course, anybody who looks up anything that I've done, they'll also find a Hashkivenu on there, a Neranenah, like they'll find all this other stuff. And I try very hard, even though I will say, that I'm a Jewish country music artist and these kinds of things, I want people just to find it as it is, as country music, and see that there's Jewish, very there's Jewish songs on here that are in full Hebrew, and like that's just part of country music, and it's okay.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow. So did you like take Hebrew classes and start studying the Torah? I mean, you got all this stuff. Yeah.
Thanks. But no, I just, when I came to it, when I discovered this, right, when it all opened up, it was like, it was kind of like you've been wandering in the desert for your whole life, and you're just starving and thirsty, and here you find this really what is an oasis that just never stops giving. I couldn't get enough of it. You have to attend, Friday services and Saturday services and all these different holidays for the time that you're in those classes. But I was in there like, I need to learn, the Shalom Aleichem that we're singing. Like, what does it mean? How do I say these words? What do these words mean? Like, I was hungry, so hungry for it. Initially, the Hebrew was like learning song lyrics. I was like, how do I say this right? How do I get this right? And then it turned into, what am I even saying? And what does it mean? So I was just hungry for it. I'm still starving. I can't get enough.
Well, I understand that the Jewish thing, it really feeds your soul. And I understand too that the country music, what really attracted you at first was the stories in the music. So I was just curious, how do these Jewish stories that are behind this music, how do those resonate with you?
In a huge way. I mean, if you look at the Torah, right, it's full of stories of people who have really gone through it. People who are, and these are very human stories in here. We just got through reading about how Moses doesn't make it into the Holy Land. Well, why doesn't he make it in? Well, Moses is not the right leader to move them forward. So where's the interesting song in that? It's in that moment where Moses makes it at times more about himself than the people around him. So what is that struggle like? When he strikes the rock, out of spite, I'll give you, like, what is that song? It's a very human song. We have a tune that, about Isaac begging his father not to bring the knife down, or, we wrote a love song for Eve to retell the story of the garden. And it's just, we're a people with incredible stories, and country music is all about that.
Wow, that's wonderful. Well,
Thanks.
I don't want to put you on the spot. Would you want to play something and
I
share a story?
I happen to have my guitar right here. Yeah.
What a coincidence!
How did I know? Yeah, no, I'm happy to play something for you. I'll tell you what. Do you want a gathering song, or do you want a love song?
I'm kind of fascinated by my beloved thing, but I'm open.
Yeah.
Whatever you feel like playing, honestly.
I'll do that for you. So this is a song that was inspired by my wife. We've been married 27 years this year, and I just felt like she needed her own, really a song about her. What's wild is that this is now on Texas radio. This is playing on FM radio. Wow. And we've had people reach out and say, "Oh, this is going to be the first dance at our wedding." So what an honor as a songwriter, right? But
totally.
Here's a stripped down version of it for you.
Yeah, and just so you know, I have to turn my screen off. It's not that I'm leaving just for the sake of this.
You're out. You're getting a drink. I hear you. No.
I'm listening. All right.
You got it, brother. 2, 3, check. I tell her she's everything. She says I'm alright. I like a tall glass of whiskey. She likes a little shot of wine. Any day there's a way I can see her face. That's a day when the sun shines. I'm my beloved's. My beloved is mine. Oh, it ain't always easy, but it's always good. We don't agree on everything, but we agree where we should. And if I need to know that God loves the world, she's the sign. I'm my beloved's. My beloved is mine. Well, I ain't got no rhythm and she's a dancing queen. She's the belle of the ball. She took me right off the wall, showed me what love means. And he Anytime we get the chance, you can bet we'll dance in the kitchen or the grocery store. You know you found the right one when the world is your dance floor. Oh, I'll tell her she's everything. She says I'm all right.
Man. Oh, that was, I love that. Man,
Oh, thanks.
Beautiful, man. And I can tell how much fun you're having as you're playing on Zoom. It's hard to play on Zoom. I'm amazed.
It is tough. It's a tough crowd when you can't see anybody or hear anybody. But yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, I thought it was hard for musicians on Zoom, and then I talked to a comedian friend who did all comedy shows during COVID, and
yeah,
never knew when to start the next joke.
Ooh, man, music is its own thing. I can't imagine doing comedy on Zoom. Those are some warriors right there. I'll tell you what.
Oh yeah, for real. But I guess one thing I'm curious about is that I know you have this amazing story. Do you ever get? But do you also have amazing music? Do you ever feel kind of trapped? Yeah, but do you ever feel like, I don't want to say trapped, but something like I know people always want to ask you about this story. Do you ever feel like trapped by I don't want to trapped inside the conversion story. You just want to, it's just, is that as important? You know what I'm trying to get at.
That is such a great question. And I will answer it like this. First, no, I don't. Mm-hmm. There was a time when I was like, maybe, like to not tell the story so much. And then I was at a Zach Brown concert at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Folks, come on down to Livestock Show and Rodeo. Hit me up if you're in town in February. We'll go watch some bull riding. But he's up there doing the song "Toes," that's the song that really cut the checks in a way, right? Like people really grabbed hold of Zach Brown as a result, and you can tell he didn't want to play it. And he kind of he started and he kind of rolled his eyes a little bit. He didn't know the cameras were on him. And he kept going to the chorus going, y'all know the words? And I was like, oh, man, he doesn't like playing this song. And I remember talking to my wife, and I was like, there are songs that I do and stories that I tell that I feel like I've told so often. And I said, I hope I never have that feeling about these things. And she was like, you can play a song, 1,000 times, and you'll be playing it for new people every time, so it should, you should treat it like what it is. And if what you did is of value and the story is of value and it can do some good, it will continue to do good. And you have to kind of keep that in mind. So, after that moment, I anybody who wants to know about it or ask questions, I'm an open book. I also realized that because we are such a small group of people, I may be, and this is true, a lot of people who grow up in Jewish communities or are part of Jewish communities, I've had a lot of people push back and go, that can't be true. And then I've had a ton of people who are not, that are like, it's 100% true. That you may be the only person that they meet or have met who is part of the Jewish people. You may be the only story like this that they hear, and they're pausing their life, the life they get, to ask you a question about something you've been through. It is worth it to take the time to have that conversation, especially if it can do some good.
Yeah. Oh man, that's great. Yeah. Wow. Well, I know you have a workshop called "Choosing to Be Chosen." Is that I'm curious about that, but I'm also curious. What do you think converts see about Judaism that people who were born into it might miss?
Yeah. Those things I share, I'll answer the second question first. The things that Rabbi Stuart Federer said to me in that shul, that is not commonly what is taught from a religious standpoint. It is very different from what is taught, in just about everywhere else. And a lot of folks who come here, a lot of folks who come discovering Judaism for the first time, or they're drawn to it, they have a ton of questions and stuff because it is both super different and also super healing at the same time. It is a wildly healing and whole and goodness based way of living. And people are drawn to that. They come from, a lot of times, like I said, religious trauma or things they want to get in their lives. They want to pray, but they don't feel comfortable, and they have, these challenges and stuff. And Judaism really kind of lays all that out and says, like, look, it's okay. And it's okay also to ask 1,000,005 questions and to push back on things you don't understand. That's who we are. It's okay. That is not common in the slightest. Right. So we are so different that it's really like, we're a bunch of outlaws when it comes to the greater religious world and the way it tends to work. And it's super beautiful and super whole, and it makes so much sense. There's so much, just logic from a standpoint about who we are. So that really draws people heavily. And by the time they get here, they're starving for it. And so there's that phrase of like, I've had so many people tell me, oh, converts know so much more than other people. And it's not really true. It's that most people, they learned a lot of this stuff that we've had to learn very recently back in Hebrew school, when you already had another school that you went to, and then you're doing this school, and then you've got to learn, and it's pressure. And if it's not done in the home, then that's the place where you hear about the most of it when you're super young. We just found out about all this, and we're hungry as you can get for it as adults. So, it's not that anybody knows more. It's just, when did you come to it?
Right.
In a really big way. So, I don't know if that answered your question.
Oh, that totally answers the question.
I hope it did.
It reminded me, because I was thinking too when you were playing My Beloved, because it reminded me. I was thinking of the story you were telling. It's obviously a Jewish story, but it really, anyone could gain something from hearing that story, which is kind of like country music. What you're talking about, it's for everyone. Whoever 100%. Just wants to listen to it and take it to heart or whatever.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No. I was just going to ramble for a second. I got nothing. You go.
Man, I always want the long version of the story, Joe. I'm here for the rambling. I like it. I was going to ask you. I don't know what kind of time I've got, but I was going to ask you if I could play you one more tune that
of course.
Is very more like obviously Jewish. In a big way.
Sure.
Would that be okay?
Oh, for sure. Oh, of course. Yeah.
Cool. I want to be respectful of time. I don't want to just like take up.
You're good. Here. No, yeah.
All right, here we go. Let me make sure we're in the right spot. This was not planned, but we're going to do it anyway. Okay, good. 2, 3, check. 2. No setup on this. We're not going to tell you what it's about. We'll spread out the shelter over us. Guide us, in love. And shield us from the storm that blows our way. There's shelter in the shadow of your wings. Hashkivenu, Adonai, Eloheinu, Leil Shalom, Hamidenu, Shomreinu, Lechayim. Lay us down, Lord, lay us down. Down, oh down in peace. You raise us with eyes, to see. That there's shelter in the shadow of your wings. Hashkivenu, Adonai, Eloheinu, Leil Shalom, Hamidenu, Shomreinu, Lechayim. Hashkivenu, Adonai, Eloheinu, Leil Shalom, Hamidenu, Malkeinu, Lechayim. We pray for life, Lord. We pray for peace. Now and when the drums are at ease. Blessed is the one who gave us breath. Oh, we're gonna live with all that we've got left. Hashkivenu, Adonai, Eloheinu, LeShalom, Hamidenu, Shomreinu Lechayim. Hashkivenu, Adonai, Eloheinu, LeShalom, Hamidenu, Malkeinu Lechayim. Yeah, there's shelter in the shadow of your wings. Oh, there's shelter in the shadow of your wings. Yeah, well, there's shelter in the shadow of your wings.
Ooh, man, I love that. Wow.
Oh, thank you.
That's so great. Man, thank you for that.
My pleasure. You
Wow.
know, I had somebody come up to me one time at a festival. They kind of charged the stage, and we had the band we were playing. And he was like, yo, stop. And I thought there was a medical emergency or something, and there wasn't. He goes, you can't say Adonai unless you're praying. I said, I promise you I'm praying. How about that? And he was like, all right, good enough.
That's awesome. Man. Would a song like that, like if you're playing like a I'm just curious how you curate your sets depending on the audience. Like, would you play that song anywhere?
I play the same music no matter where I'm at, because my mentality is that, like, I'm not doing this, like being Jewish so that I can do music. I'm doing music because I feel called to it as someone who's Jewish. So it's you know, one is the reason for the other. And so I wanted to write music that I would stand beside no matter where I was. And an example of that, we were playing South by Southwest a couple of years ago, and it was Friday night. And I said, y'all, it's Friday night. That means it's Shabbos. And I went, Shabbos. And the whole bar goes, Shabbos. They had no idea what they were saying. And we launched into our set. And then we ended up playing this take on Shalom Aleichem, because we did a couple of Shabbos tunes in there, but like from a band standpoint. And afterwards, this guy came up to me and he goes, dude, was that some Hebrew? And I said, yeah. And he goes, I'm Jewish. And I said, you don't have to whisper that. It's okay. Yeah, it's awesome. It's good to meet you, you know.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I was curious. That kind of brings to mind, I just had a couple more questions before we turn it over to the Q&A. But, you know, I guess I'm curious about how much you were aware of anti-Semitism before becoming Jewish, and how becoming Jewish, how that's changed. And, you know, I know that's a big question, but
no, it's a great question. I didn't grow up. I never heard any jokes about the Jewish people growing up. There was no Jewish humor that was, you know, got spat out in my family. I never experienced anti-Semitism when I was young, although I'm not naive enough to think that it like didn't exist, or that it certainly may not have even, you know, may have been part of people in my family. Like, I have no idea. It was never in my realm of experience as a young person. But after becoming Jewish, I get it quite a bit. It comes at me pretty hard and fast. And, you know, we don't have a lot of people I haven't had a lot of people, very rare, anybody will say anything to my face. But I certainly have had my share of keyboard warriors, you know, who come at you in the comment section. And my mentality on that is, you know, for anybody out there watching this, if you run a social media page, or you're part of the social media team for your shul or anything like that, people are going to fire hose your comment section with the most awful things. And the goal is to get you to step back from posting about Jewish stuff. The thing to do is block and delete. They're not here for a conversation. So I block and delete people every morning. Because in my opinion, that's my community. I wouldn't want those people walking into a place I was doing services at and saying some of this stuff. So no, there's no conversations, just out the door. We don't tolerate it.
Does it bother you? I mean, I'm just thinking of too, with people who are listening, because we all get this, not as much as you, but like we all deal with, and you seem to have a really healthy mindset around this.
Thank you.
Like other people, I mean, I've too. It'll, I know like they win if I'm still thinking about it 20 minutes later. But
Right.
how do you, what do you have advice for people? Is it really, do you let it affect you emotionally or?
Yeah, I mean, it does. It
Yeah,
does,
yeah.
because I see the harm that it's done, the incredible harm that it's done. And look, anti-Semitism, obviously, for anybody who knows, it's not new. I mean, this has been around for ages, and there's not just suddenly people who are suddenly anti-Semitic. I mean, this is just has been bubbling and brewing and waiting to sprout, and it's here because it's been there. And I keep in mind, like, look, people who are driven by such hate and drinking that poison and expecting it to hurt somebody else, they're doing such harm to themselves in the process of like truly hating somebody without knowing somebody. So part of my heart goes out to like, man, I'm so sorry that whatever happened to you that made you feel this way, how terrible. But at the same time, there's no permission given to be okay with it. Like, you do not have to tolerate it. No, people who come at you with awful, hateful stuff are not looking to have a conversation at the table. And you don't need to try to invite that conversation, or even like talking in the comments. Here's what happens, Joe. This is something that a lot of people don't think about. So fire hosing is a real thing. If I am someone who is part of one of these anti-Semitic groups and I comment on your post, other people who I'm part of these groups with, they get notified that I did, and they rush to fill in the comment section. The only purpose is to push you out of social media and push you out of the public face. So the best thing to do is just get rid of that stuff the second it pops up. You have to be dedicated to that process in the same way that we are in our shuls, in our communities, to protecting those communities with a physical presence. You have to be that presence online as well. I mean, it's awful. It does absolutely affect me. It's terrible to see. I have people that I know very well, and I spend time with these communities, right? I'm on the road 3 to 4 weekends a month all over the country, and I hear people's stories and pray with people and see the things that they've been going through. I was not born into this history, right? I wasn't born Jewish. I've done, and for everybody who's like, oh, somebody along, no, absolutely not. I've done all the ancestry stuff. It's all Celt and Scandinavian. Like, I don't have a drop of Jewish anything in my ancestry, and that's okay. And I recognize that I'm Jewish now. I wasn't always. I don't want to forget that I wasn't, because it helps me appreciate this so much more. But I'm taking this history as something that's part of my people, and I want to do what I can to uplift them, to protect them, and to fight back where you need to fight back, and be a wall where you need to be a wall, and hold hands where you need to hold hands. There's a lot of ways to approach this. I think that ultimately we should be doing the opposite of what people that want to tear us down do. If they want to destroy homes, we build homes. If they want to burn bridges, we build bridges. Be who we are, because the world doesn't really understand who we are. We have to be the ones to tell them. It's not a rabbi's job. It's our job to tell the world who we are.
Thank you for that, man. And just one more question before I turn it over, because this just came to mind. But like, at the time you were, say, in high school, like, how did you know Jews, like, growing up? Like, did you know about the Holocaust? Like, did you know any, like, were you aware that these people were still around,
The only thing I knew about the Jewish people was from a small section when we would study World War II and we would come to the camps. That's it. That's it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's it. And I went to, like I said, I mean, you would be blown away at the number of places I used to go from a religious standpoint trying to find answers. Not a single person ever talked about the Jewish people or even mentioned it as like the Israelites. Like, that doesn't come up. Yeah, so there was nothing. And Houston has the biggest conservative synagogue in the country, but it's back in the neighborhoods. All the shuls are. You'll never see a synagogue on the highway.
Wow.
So like, how and no one would ever introduce themselves like, howdy, I'm Harold and I'm Jewish. It just never happened. And my wife and I, when we got together, we got married as fast as we could. We would have done one of those drive-through I do's, if they had them around. We never talked about religious ceremonies. We couldn't afford a big wedding, so it wasn't part of the conversation.
Wow. That's fascinating. This whole conversation. I just appreciate you. Thank you for this.
Oh, man,
I
appreciate you. I can't wait to see you and hang out in the same room.
We're gonna have a good time. Well, we're already having a good time, but it's gonna be. But thank you for this. And I'll turn it over to Suzanne so we can see what other questions we have from the audience.
Oh, thanks.
Well,
Yeah.
Joe's, that was phenomenal.
Oh, thanks.
Everybody is loving it. Lots of comments.
Oh,
We had one
good.
person who said they were from the deep South,
Right on.
and the amount of Jewish music that sounds like home is very limited. So they really appreciate your music.
Well, I appreciate them, and I didn't realize that would be the case when I started writing it, but I'm glad that's been part of it. It feels good to folks.
One person wrote in and said, "What advice would you give someone who's considering converting to Judaism after feeling a calling for it?"
Yeah. A couple of things. I'm not a big fan, number one, of the whole like deny three times. I think that is a terrible practice. That's my take on it. Realize that if you go to a rabbi and that rabbi goes, no, 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 this isn't for you, and shuts that door, I recommend just going to a different rabbi. It's, you certainly don't. One person doesn't speak for all the people. And take your time with it. It is a life study, and it is a beautiful journey, and take your time and just enjoy it. Ask every question that you can think of, and realize that time that you spend going through those Judaism 101 classes and everything, that is not so that the people will accept you or that God will accept you or anything like that. The reason you go through all that is to see if by the end of it, this is something you can stand with, take ownership of as yours, and stand alongside. It's so worth it to go on that journey. And then you'll know for sure, can this be mine? And do I want to be part of this? Ask all the questions you can and keep asking questions afterwards and enjoy the process.
Great.
And I will say too, be careful, because you'll have a lot of people telling you what is and isn't Jewish even afterwards. It is yours. The Vehafta doesn't say, let's all do this. It says, bind this as a sign upon your arm and above your eyes, the doorpost of your home and on your gates. It is for you. It is for us communally and as a community and as a people. It's also yours individually. So once you're here and you go through all that, you get to figure out, how do I take this into the world? And that's for you to do.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Someone would like to know how your side of the family reacted to you converting to Judaism.
That's the question, right? I'm going to answer it very simply, and I'm sure y'all will appreciate a short answer on this. I am very close to my wife's side of the family.
Okay.
You find out quickly who loves you and who doesn't love you the way that you should be loved.
Mm-hmm. There is definitely someone from a Texan in the crowd. They just were curious if you go to Shar HaShalom in Clear Lake.
Oh my goodness, that's where I did my conversion. I was a member there for a long time. Old Rabbi Stuart Federow, who retired after 28 glorious years. What a great place, Shar HaShalom. Yes, sir, out in Clear Lake, Texas.
Wonderful. And several people have asked if you're a fan of the music of Kinky Friedman. I know I had the pleasure before he passed away of being able to interview him for Moment Live.
Can I tell you my kinky story?
Please.
We were in an airport together. We're the only people in this terminal. Like, it was, I don't know, some ridiculous time in the morning. And there's Kinky Friedman wearing all black, his hat, carrying his guitar case. I'm there in all black hat, carrying my guitar case. He sees me and looks at me sideways. I see him, look at him sideways. We start walking to each other comically, like we're going to draw on each other, just real slow, And we get real close, and he's looking at my Star of David, and I'm checking him out. And he just kind of squints, and he goes, I said, "Excuse me, sir, are you Kinky Friedman?" Knowing full well it was, And he goes, "Well, son, I used to be." And I was like, man, that's the coolest thing I ever heard. And we hugged it out and just really hit it off. He invited me to his ranch before he passed and spent a lot of time with Kinky on his front porch and about to play some music for the kids out there at Echo Hill. And I remember he introduced me to all these kids as Cowboy Joe, and I will never forget that.
That's very special.
Such a sweetheart.
Speaking of your necklace, is that a guitar pick with the Star of David on it?
It is. It's made of aluminum, so it would sound terrible to use it. But I've had this on ever since I came out of my mikveh. I haven't taken it off except to change the thread on it. So
very nice. And behind you, is that a Ner Talmid?
No, that thing that's lighting up like
Yeah.
that. I loved it because it looked like one. We do a lot of craft markets and farmers markets and stuff. And somebody makes these things, and I was like, "Whoa, I got to get that for the studio." So I turned it on just before we started, so I can turn it off remotely and I can turn it back on. So
Very nice. And somebody else said, do you have any stories about the guitars that are behind you?
yeah, so I'm not a fan of. I mean, I love that people have collections. Every guitar that I have is super purposeful. So like this white Gretsch right here, my wife bought me. It was the first electric I ever owned, and it has a particular sound to it that Joe, it's very much a jazz guitar, but it works really well for some very clean kind of country sounds. The Telecaster next to it was also a gift from my wife for our second album, which really leans into a honky tonk sound. And then she got me that hummingbird back there. It was the first hummingbird off the line, the new Gibsons, when they put them out in celebration of our new album. And this guitar right here on the side, that guitar, when we first got together as a couple, we didn't have any money. We had less than no money. And I sold my guitar because I was like, maybe I can get something for this. She was so mad that she went out with a credit card that we had no business putting anything on, bought me that guitar. And it is an old Blue Ridge with no electronics in it. I've had it for almost 30 years now, and I just got it, just took it in the shop to get it touched up and worked on. So I write all my songs on that guitar. This is a Gibson J45. That's my in-house streaming guitar that I use. So yeah, they've all got a story. They all got a purpose. I never want more guitars than I will intentionally use.
Wonderful.
Was that guitar that you just talked about, was that your first instrument? I'm just curious.
That one on the back wall?
Yeah, yeah. Or
So
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that Blue Ridge back there is the first one that I've had since we've been together. Because I had another acoustic that I just had, and I sold it and got rid of it. And she was so mad that she went out and bought me that thing. She was like, "Never do that again." I said, "Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
I won't."
Joe Alterman, why don't you share about your piano?
Oh yeah, I got.
Oh,
So I
come
was.
on, tell me.
Yeah, I was very lucky. I had a wonderful mentor. I'm not sure if you've heard of the name Ramsey Lewis, but he was a great. Yeah, you've heard of Ramsey. Great jazz pianist, and I was his opening act. We were very close, and when he passed, this was his piano. I got his 1963 Steinway. It was his only piano his whole career. He wrote all his music, practiced here, and jammed with Donny Hathaway on this keyboard. So
Wow, come on.
it's got a presence. He would talk to me about how it had a personality and things like
Yeah.
that, and I feel that. And people walk in here and don't know about it, and they're like, "Something's up with that piano. It's got a
Yeah, it really does, right? They all have their own tone, their own feel. Can I ask you a
yeah."
question, Joe?
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah,
So you got your piano there in your home.
yeah.
What time of day? And I don't mean like playing like gigs or playing at events or anything like that. Just you by yourself. Do you have a time of the day that you most enjoy sitting behind that? It's just you and the piano. Is there a time of day that you enjoy doing that in most?
Oh yeah, late night. Honestly, I love playing in the middle of not the middle, but anyway from 11 to 4.
I
Honestly,
knew you were going to say 11 o'clock. I'm an 11 o'clock guy myself. That's when I do most of my
Hey!
songwriting. So, yeah. Great. 11 o'clock. That's a club.
All right. We got that and the Joe.
That's right.
Well, as I said in our prep meeting, I'm looking forward to one day a collaboration between the two of you with country
Yeah.
meets jazz. I think
Oh
we would all
yeah.
like to hear that.
There's a lot of room for it.
Both of you,
Yeah.
thank you so much for this
Thank you.
wonderful, wonderful conversation. I know everybody out there enjoyed it. I wanted to let everybody know that I put in the chat links to both Joe's websites, to Neranenah, to Moment Live. This will
Yeah.
be up on our website later today. Please share it with others and come back for our next program. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and we will see you next time.
Thanks,
Take
y'all.
care.
Thanks for being here. Take care.
Thank y'all.